the final stop on the Dry Brook and Esopus Valley Railroad. This is going to be the final industry, which I believe we will call Fleischmanns Gravel, maybe, because the last station stop is Fleischmanns, so that's what I'm thinking about. But anyway, this is meant to be a small sort of industry. There's nothing fancy about it. Don't expect like some huge gravel quarry or something like that. I wanted to base this off of some quarries that I've seen in similar areas in the Catskills, where it's not really so much this mega quarry operation as much as it is maybe like a mom and pop sort of operation where somebody has a big piece of property and they're basically just digging out the mountainside. So I wanted to keep things very simple. I didn't even include like a runaround track or anything like that. It's just one single track going up into this industry. And I guess part of my idea too with just the single track was to encourage users to have to use the runaround back at the actual Fleischmanns runaround track and station stop, because I thought that would be kind of cool. I like seeing trains through there. As I said in my last episode, that's kind of my new favorite spot. So I wanted to encourage that sort of operation. And I just thought it'd be more interesting to just have a single track. This is supposed to be a very small branch line operation. And this is kind of like the staple industry on the Dry Brook route. Like this is the main industry. And because the actual scale of the railroad is so limited, I thought it would be appropriate as well to keep the quarry in a sort of a small size. So what I mean by that is that the main yard, the interchange yard down in the city, which I still don't have a name for, by the way, that is the max runaround track down there can only hold 8 cars. So what I'm sort of picturing with this industry is that you'll have an operation where you'll have 8 empties in and then 8 loads out, and maybe that happens like once a week. And I'd like to imagine that the quarry itself owns their own rail cars. And that might be sort of a long shot idea if this is sort of a mom and pop sort of thing. But you know what? It just makes for some more interesting stuff to make for this, I guess. So I'll probably skin up some rail cars for it. I know in the last video, the rail cars I was using were the best ones that I thought looked right. And I know that they were only carrying scrap, and I think on the side of it they said Herzog's scrap or somebody so-and-so scrap metal or something like that. So that was, I guess, a little continuity weird thing I did there. But I think in this one I switched those out for some P&B 100-ton hoppers. Again, they can only carry coal, or they're only set up to carry coal in trains. But I don't know, I have to find the right hopper cars to reskin, and I'll be doing, something similar like I did with the P&B, where I'll put the name of the industry on there, Fleischmanns Gravel Minerals or something like that. I'll come up with something, and I'm sure you guys will have some good suggestions for me as well. So again, back to the actual operation here. Very limited, eight hoppers in, 8 hoppers out, and I really didn't even want to include a big top loader conveyor system. I didn't want to include any of that. I just want this to be really simple in its design. Everything is just kind of done with backhoes and bulldozers and dump trucks, and that's about it. And I'm picturing each car is going to be loaded manually by front loading excavators, or I don't know what the actual proper term is, but those you know what I'm talking about, because I think I put one down in front of the loading area. So very limited. It should take about a week for the cars to get loaded up fully. I guess that's just the idea. That was my idea for this, and I think it works. By the time I get to the end of the build, it seems to look right. I'm sure that there's things that I've missed because I'm not a gravel quarry expert or a quarry expert or anything on this type of industry. I'm just kind of looking at pictures on Google Earth and some of the ones that you guys provided to me, and then just kind of using my own artistic license to make something that seems like it looks good. So again, I'm just kind of picturing them working their way up this road here, up the side of the mountain, and just cutting away at it little by little. And there's areas that are just exposed rock, and other areas that are just dirt or gravel or sand or whatever the mountainside might be. So I tried to kind of mix it up to make sure that there was enough variety in how it looks. And I'm not really good at keeping things super simple like that. Like there's a point in this video where I started scratching my head. I'm like, I need to add more. I was like, no, I don't need to add more. Like, this is just enough. So I don't know. I'm gonna see like what you guys think about it. But I'm kind of happy with how it turns out in terms of it's just like a handful of objects. And again, as with everything else on this route, I'm gonna come back and add some more details as needed. Probably some more people. I'm not really too sure if I could probably find some construction workers and stuff like that and populate them around. Things like that. I didn't want to dirty it up too much with like just junk littered around, because I guess in my head I'm picturing this as a newer operation in general. So I guess there's a reason why this short line opened up, right? Because there was some freight interest, right? So I'm kind of picturing this as being the anchor of the freight business. Like, we've got all those other little industries sprinkled along the route, but this is the big one that sort of made them say, okay, we're actually going to do this because there's some money here. So I wanted it to look new, and I'm not even sure if this track that is laid here would be like new track, or if maybe this was an old spur that went some other place. I haven't really envisioned what that story is in my head yet. And I'm kind of really split. I'm really divided on both of those, because on the one hand, I like the idea that the track might have continued. Maybe it was an old section of a branch, or like a really long industrial spur or something like that. But on the other hand, I kind of like the idea that maybe they just put this in. Maybe this property just started to be dug out pretty recently. And they decided that they wanted to bring some track in, and that's how this industry was born. So I don't know. I haven't really decided what the history is, because they're both very interesting, I think, for this line. And I don't really feel like drawn to one over the other, I guess, to say. But so unscenic there he is. So with this area, again, right next to the tracks, I thought it'd be interesting rather than just having it woods. I wanted to add another one of these low-lying, like wetlands, boggy type areas, because I like the way that it looks back east a little bit at the station stops there. So I thought I would include that here, and it adds a little bit more visual variety, and it also gives you a good chance to like get your camera in there and get some nice screenshots or like cinematics or something like that. Because otherwise, if you have if you have your tree line a little bit too close to the tracks, it's really hard to get in there with a camera or get a good angle, or your camera is just constantly clipping through trees and brush and shrubs and stuff like that, and get kind of annoying. Plus, this is more visually interesting, and I plan on including more little things like this along the rest of the main line, just to keep it from feeling a little too plain and boring. Because as it is right now, to me at least, this route is almost a series of, it's like connect the dots. It's a series of little layout design elements every couple of miles, and then in between it's just like a whole bunch of trees. And that's kind of how the P&B was, and one of the things that really irks me when I look back at the P&B, and I know it was something that I started a really long time ago, so there wasn't much that I could do about it, but is just how plain the main line can be. And I'm the type of person who doesn't really enjoy mainline running because it gets very boring to me and very samey. There's not a whole lot that I like to do. It doesn't keep me interested. But if the scenery was good and it was broken up with a swamp here and a little bridge there and stuff like that, then I think it might be more interesting to me. So as I go back over some of these areas and do another pass of detailing and whatever else I'd end up doing, I'm probably going to cut in some more little spots like that. Maybe they won't all be like little swampy areas. Maybe it'll just be like another little ranch or a farmhouse or something else, just to make it feel a little bit more interesting as you're taking your train from town out into the sticks out here to load up some hopper cars, or to pick up some loaded hopper cars rather. So I guess leading into that, I should mention some stats about the route. And actually, I don't even want to mention stats because I don't have a whole lot of stats. What I do have is the total mileage of the route, and we're up to 12.5 miles. And for some reason, in my head, I thought it was bigger than that. This is the target that I wanted, though. I didn't want to go beyond like 15. 15 was my max, but I thought that I hit 15 when I added like the last couple sections of track. I thought I went way over the top. But when I measured it out the other day, we're sitting at 12.5 miles, which is just like right within the ballpark for me. And that's measuring right from where the interchange track comes off the main line and then goes right up to, I think I measured it beyond the washed out bridge. So all the way to the very edge of the map. So it's about 12.5 miles long, which I think that for me, that's a good size. You know, this was a lot of work to just do 12.5 miles of track, and there's still so much left that needs to get done. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I think in terms of operation, that's like the sweet spot for me. You know, it's not so short that it feels like a model railroad, or that it just feels like, you know, your train is leaving town, but the caboose is in one town and the engine's in another town. Like, it doesn't feel that short to me. And maybe that's just because of how this route is designed, going from city to like suburbia, and then into farmland, and then into the mountainside. So you kind of get this real transition from one thing to the next, and it sort of helps keep things a little bit more separate and a little bit more interesting. But also there's, you know, there's a 2.5% grade going from the edge of the farmland all the way up to, I think, the Brook stop. I think that it starts to level off a little tiny bit. And there's some grades here and there. I kind of set the track to go uphill and downhill a little tiny bit just to make sure that it wasn't totally flat. We are, after all, supposed to be sort of up in the mountainside a little tiny bit. But the main climb is just getting out of that farmland and getting up into the mountains there. And that's the main climb into the hillside and the countryside there. And that's going to be pretty interesting to bring Trainz back down. I'm really hoping that I don't need to add more power, and that the 3 locomotives that I picked out will actually be able to handle an 8-car loaded gravel train going back down into town. We'll see. I got to test that out a little bit more. I think it should be okay. I think it'll be okay, but we'll see. I might need to add another GP9 or GP38 or something like that, just so that there's enough dynamic power to slow the thing down going down into town. We don't just go blowing out the brakes and flying down into that interchange. So that, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to operate. And speaking of operations, when I was doing the cinematics here, I noticed that this track arrangement that you're seeing right here on the screen is a little iffy in terms of how you have to switch out the gravel industry there. So I'm not sure if I want to adjust where these runaround tracks are, or add another track, or not remove a track, but adjust them, or just leave it, you know, because if this spur going up to the gravel industry was just put in, maybe there was not that kind of forethought, or, you know, they had to work with what kind of tracks were already there on the right of way. So I got to do a little bit more experimenting with that, and see how I feel. And here's the tree stumps. Okay, I talked about that in the last episode, and that's fresh in my mind because I just did the voiceover for that one. But here's the tree stumps, just to imply that they did come through here and cut down some of the trees that were really close to the right of way, and clear them out. But this section of track is basically out of service. You can probably store some cars on here, and you can take a train or take an engine down to the washed out bridge. But that's it. There's no other use for it. But I think that's going to bring us into the cinematics in just a moment here. So I'm going to start wrapping up my spiel here. But this is going to be the last video for 2018. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time. I didn't have any time to do another cinematic only end of year special thing that I've done in the past. So I apologize for that. I wish I could do that, but not this year. So this is going to be it for 2018. So I'd like to thank you guys right now for all of the views and all of the support and everything through 2018. It's been a really, really great year. We've done some really cool stuff on the channel here. We've made a lot of progress. We've done a lot of really fun builds. And we got the P&B out finally, so that's awesome. And hopefully this will be being released sometime in the first or second quarter of 2019. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But lots of cool stuff I have planned for 2019. I want to start getting into Trainz 2019. And see where that goes. And I've got some other builds. We'll get back to the P&B soon as well. But that's going to do it for me for today. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new around here and you've enjoyed this video or any of the other videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you get notified when I go live, or when I do live streams or post another video. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.